Postpartum Hemorrhage Quality Improvement Initiative, Evaluation of Blood Loss Following Primary Postpartum Hemorrhage, toolkit developed with Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital in conjunction with the National Perinatal Epidemiology Centre and the National Women and Infants Health Programme. What are we looking at here today? We are looking at evaluating maternal blood loss. We know that we need to recognise PPHs promptly and act quickly. And we also know that the key management of PPH is this early recognition of excessive blood loss and appropriate fluid replacement. We all know that there will be some blood loss following a birth, whether it is a normal vaginal birth in a low risk setting or an instrumental delivery in a consultant-led unit. However, it's this recognition of excessive blood loss that we are looking at here today. When evaluating maternal blood loss, without accurate weighed measurement of the blood loss, the outcome for the woman may be that 1. She does not receive the correct treatment, or 2. She receives unnecessary treatment. In the first instance, we may have underestimated the amount of blood that she's lost and not gotten the lady reviewed or started her on oxytocin drugs, which would help to keep the uterus contracted, and she may continue to bleed and end up having a larger blood loss than necessary. Or 2, we may have looked at the blood loss, not weighed it, and thought that she had a greater blood loss than she has, and put her on a path where she received oxytocin drugs that were not needed or appropriate in her care. Another important point when evaluating blood loss is that blood loss should be individually assessed in relation to the mother's weight along with her clinical picture. Staff need to remember that smaller women may have a lower blood volume and therefore their ability to tolerate blood loss is reduced. The woman may also have a lower hemoglobin coming into the birth, and this is something that we also need to remember. Here's a chart where we're going to look at the amount of blood loss, the clinical features, and the levels of shock. So as mentioned before, we need to look at the weight of the woman in relation to the amount of blood that they are losing. So if you look at the first box, a 10% blood loss. If the mother is 80 kgs, she can lose at times up to 800 mils and she will still be compensating. She may have only a mild tachycardia, but she's normal blood pressure. If you look at the second box and we take 800 mils again, but this woman is 50 kgs, this woman now has a 15% blood loss. And this woman now is going to be showing mild levels of shock. She'll have tachycardia, she may have hypertension, tachypnea, she may be sweating, weakness and faint. And that's why this is so important, that it's not just a volume in itself. So when we're handing over to other staff or when we're measuring that we're saying 800 mils, we need to look back at the woman that we're caring for. What is her weight? What is her clinical picture? If she's showing us signs of shock, then the blood loss may be more than we think. And that's why the weight is so important. Blood loss must be measured at each and every birth, and it must be part of this multidisciplinary team approach. Everybody is responsible for measuring blood loss, all clinical staff. On this slide, we're going to look at the weighing scale that we use and a chart of the dry weights. So this weighing scale in the picture is used just for weighing items during a PPH. This weighing scale is calibrated as to manufacturer's specifications, and it can be taken into the room if needed or left in the sluice room where this picture was taken when we're actually weighing all the swabs and ink sheets that were used during the delivery. Here also is a sample of either a sticker you may have, or like us, we have a laminated chart beside the weighing scales, and on that are the dry weights. So this is the Inco pad and the actual dry weight. A small swab, so it's 5, a medium swab is 10, large swabs are 20, sanitaries are 24. And so here we're going to look at how you actually measure blood loss. 1 gram of weight is equal to 1 ml in blood loss. For example, if you've got 500 grams, then it's 500 mils blood loss. All types of blood loss should be accounted for and ensure that there's an accurate total blood loss is calculated. And how we do this is we weigh all blood soaked items and we subtract the dry weight of each of them. So from the chart that we saw before that, you have your dry weight list. So we saw that when we looked at the weighing scales. And we take the dry weight away. So the blood soaked weight in grams minus the dry weight in grams. So if we have 750 grams, we're going to minus the dry weight, which is 100, and that will give us a total of 650 grams, which equals 650 mils of total blood loss. So there's our example. Here's some pictures of items that have been soaked and weighed. Traditionally, we would have looked at Inco sheets and made an estimate of what the blood loss is. And we know from research that we're not very good at this. Most of the time, we underestimate the amount of blood that there is. If we look at the swabs, these are medium-sized swabs with a radiology band on them, and it's 100 mils with just one swab. There's 3 swabs in the next one in a kidney dish, a clear kidney dish, and that is 300 mils when we actually weigh them. The Inco sheet is 500 mils, and then the other one, the double Inco sheet, is 800 mils. Here's some more images for you to look at. The first one is a pad that has 50 mils on it, and the second pad has 100 mils, and this pad would be quite heavy when you actually hold it. We've also shown you here some pictures from our birthing pools, because even though we've talked the whole time about weighing blood loss, there are times when you will have to use visualization to actually estimate the amount of blood that there may be, especially if we're using water and birthing in pools. So we have 2 images here for you. We have the 500 mils as the first one, and then 800 mils. And you can see the difference in the 800 mils, we're now having blood dispersing throughout the entire pool, and that whole pool will look red. The recommendation would be that if you're at 500 mils, this woman should be still well, she should be compensating, but we now need to be leaving the pool. And if there's any further blood loss on land, that would be weighing and measuring that. Here are some examples of blood loss in theatre. So we're using the suction catheters. The first one is 500 and the second is 1100. We know in a cesarean section that up to 1000 mils can be considered normal, and here we have 1100, and again we're going to be looking at this woman with her clinical picture and how she's doing during the section. So evaluating maternal blood loss in the delivery room, we recommend that as soon as the woman has given birth, we place a clean Inco sheet underneath her, because she will have had lycra at the birth, and we're going to take that away and start with a clean Inco sheet. And from then on, we make sure that we include all blood loss in our measurement. We measure all blood soaked pads, swabs, incontinence sheets, any liquid blood in kidney dishes, in bowls or drapes, and any clots that there is. Evaluating blood loss in theatre. Again, we measure all blood loss in our suction catheters, in the underbuttock drapes, all clots, all blood soaked swabs, pads, and incontinence sheets. You're subtracting any amniotic fluid collection in the suction catheter and you're noting that before the final volume is taken. And finally, blood loss should be continuously monitored along with the maternal clinical picture. Ongoing blood loss of greater than 500 mL, whether it is an SVD or an instrumental delivery, we should be getting help, notifying our senior staff, acting, starting blood loss assessment. If blood loss continues, or if there's any clinical concern, we are acting, we're continuing to measure, and we're recording a cumulative blood loss. We are initiating our guidelines, performas, protocols, and working as part of the multidisciplinary team. Continuing blood loss of over 1,500 mL or clinical concern, we continue to communicate the current measured blood loss to our team. We work together to ensure that we effectively manage the PPH to have the best outcomes for the mother in our care.